Hi, everyone. Welcome to another live session. So excited to have everybody here. February. We're already into February, which is just, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Every month just seems to fly by, but thank you so much for being here. Really, really excited. So, as I can see people coming on to the thread, obviously we always come in with a few backup questions, and those people who get in a little early, it's smart. Like we always are about 20 plus minutes behind. So always with everybody, if you've never been on this stream, just totally ask for a little bit of patience as I get a little bit behind on the questions. But the goal of every live is I'll do my best to answer all the questions. So I wanted to kick off. All right, Corwin's letting us know that we are actually live, I think. So if you want to jump in, say hello from wherever you're coming from, or um, the idea here is that I'm always kind of coming up with funky titles for these lives, but in general, they're Q&A sessions. But there are just a few really quick items that I want to chat about, and then, of course, I don't want to waste the time. We'll get right into answering all your questions for you. Okay, so um, where are we at? Okay, so the title, we can talk a little bit today and focus on a little bit today. It's always an interesting question of whether like Google is a good fit for you or big tech is a good fit for you. And sometimes, honestly, the answer is no, right? Just because there's a lot of process. Sometimes there can be some bureaucracy, red tape. Big companies aren't always the right fit for anybody. So if we want to bring in some questions about whether these kinds of tech companies are the right fit for you, I think that's a great place for us to be today. I just want to prompt on just a few really quick admin items and hang in there with me because we'll get to questions in a moment. So remember, this is a gracious and kind platform. That is the platform and community that I've built for the last, it's been almost 3.5 years on YouTube. So all positivity here. Remember, not everything's positive, and we don't want to have that toxic positivity, but with the questions and comments, let's keep them positive as much as we can. Sometimes on the recruiter side of things, it's not always 100% positive. Um, so any data, any information, so it doesn't just have to be Q&A, right? If you have any data or information that you think would be valuable to the community, awesome. If you got the job, would love to hear that, right? Last week was a great week for us. We had 7 people come on and tell us they got the job at Google. And remember, I'm just a tiny part of the journey. All the work happens behind the scenes. So the course, people are asking a lot about the course, and on our Slack group, if you haven't joined our Slack group, it's free and the community really brings each other up. I'm not on there a ton. I try and hop on there about once or twice a week and answer some questions, but the course is supposed to come out 3/1. Candidly, I think I might need to push the date again. I just want to make sure it's the best course. I don't want to go through analysis paralysis. I know it will never be perfect, but it's probably going to end up being pushed a little bit into March right now just to make sure that it's really good. And I get some people who actually have an opportunity to go through that beta piece. If you want to get in the Slack group, we have a waiting list to take the beta course right now because we had so many people interested. Lastly, if you like what we're doing, smash that like button. And if you've never subscribed to our channel, we're loving the subscribers and definitely on the uptick there. And we really like that. So without further ado, we are going to dive in. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, good anchor for L6 NYC non-tech PGM. Okay, so we're coming in L6. I'm anchoring any L6 role typically in like New York or Bay. I'm gonna try and anchor right around that 400 number. If you want to come in just underneath it, I mean, I think for year one, is 400 viable? Absolutely, it is. We're probably for an L6 PGM in Bay or New York, looking around that 340 to 350 as a 4-year average. But I don't mind if you come in and anchor right around that 400-ish. Remember, the thing with anchoring and large anchoring is look at where that year one number is landing, because the 4-year average is just a sanity check, right? It's just to say, look, I don't want to get too skewed by year one, because year one has especially if you're going after Google, it's going to have that 33%, right? In year one, you're going to have potentially a sign on. So the 4-year average is just sanity check. That's all it is. The goal is to never earn less than year one. but I always prompt on a 4-year average just to be a little bit conservative, but that's not actually going to be the 4-year average. I hope that helps. Okay, yes, sure. Okay. Hi, thanks for all you do. You've researched levels in blind, but not good data on the differences in salary for Chicago and Austin markets. Is the offset about 15%? Yep, that's a very, very accurate. That's a very accurate number. Now, I want to like a really interesting thing to just mention really, really quickly. Oh, sorry, JJ. Compared to the Bay, no, I'm going to say that there's maybe a 10%, 10 to 15% offset from Chicago to Austin. Maybe it's probably more like 10%, but to the Bay, just depends on role, but it can be higher than 15%, maybe up to 20%. Remember, it's cost of labor. And the cost of labor in Austin is skyrocketing because so many tech companies have moved there. So they're going to have to keep paying more and more in Austin. Whereas Chicago's such a big city that tech is really kind of starting to have a big footprint in Chicago, but I don't think it's enough to influence the overall cost of labor market. So you're going to continue to see Austin differentiate itself because that cost of labor will continue to go up in that market. I hope that helps. If you have other questions, come back and let me know. Absolutely, you're totally welcome. All right, due to immigration issues, you have loads of time to prepare for your interview, months. How do you invest that time wisely? Controller or accounting manager position, US, G, or Magna, overall L6. Okay, so the number one thing I want you to focus in on is practicing. Now, if you have months, spend that first, let's say maybe you spend 1 full month or 3 to 4 weeks just getting everything down, right? Get everything down on paper, Google Doc ideally, or Word doc, and just get it all down. Practice it on your own, and then set a plan and a really nice practice strategy to practice with others. Because the earlier you can introduce that practice with others, the more insight, input, etc., that you're going to get to tweak. The practice piece, especially when you have the time, is great. But here's the deal. Set the plan. And so the plan means you are going to calendar into your calendar 3 times a week that you can do a practice interview. And then everybody knows, or most people know who've seen my content, you got to bribe people, right? You got to buy them a bottle of wine, pizza, coffee. Food is a great way to bribe people. Everybody likes food. So just make sure that you're giving back. And when you do that setup with them and you're setting that practice strategy, you're giving them the questions. You're setting up the calendar invite. You're always early. Like, you're going to do anything and everything to make it as easy on them as possible. During the interview process at Google, if a person accepts an offer from another company, does this become an issue with Google, provided he is selected by Google HC and wants to work at Google? Look, yeah, this scenario happens. This scenario happens all the time. You are going to burn a bridge with that current company if you accept the offer and start there, and you're there for 3 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, and then you leave for Google. You will burn that bridge, and you'll never be able to go back to that company. Realistically, I mean, maybe, but for the most part, you're going to burn a bridge. Yeah, I mean, Google doesn't love in those scenarios when you do that, but their process is also slow. And sometimes we have personal matters, we have family matters, we have things and reasons that are outside of our control for why we need to accept that offer and move on. So it's not a great scenario, but ultimately we just do really need to focus a little bit on ourselves and do what's best for us. Hope that helps. Okay. All right. Just finished the last round at Google this week and skipped HC, and you're on to Team Match. Thanks for all your content. You wouldn't be here without me. Okay, awesome. Remember, it's always you, it's not me. You have a couple of questions. How common is it to skip HC at this stage? Okay. To get to an offer. The position is L6 fully remote for GCP MLCE role. Potential offer is 240. Yeah, it's 42.86. So yeah, 43%. Levels.FYI is 275. Any recommendations here? Yeah, 275. even for Dallas, for an L6 would be low. I would definitely be anchoring higher. I'd be anchoring, at least into the mid to high threes. They probably won't pay you that. I think an L6 will pay more in the low threes as a 4-year average, but 275 seems a little low. So let's see what else you have here. And then, okay, sorry, we got that one. And then finally, stock grant, they set the expectation at 250, 900. It's a considerable gap. So 900 for a CE L6 stock grant, that would be high. Okay. I haven't seen that at all. So again, with levels.fyi, I love that resource. It's our #1 resource. And of course, Team Blind. If you haven't been on Team Blind, those are the 2 resources to go, hands down, by far the best. Don't look at anything else if you're going into big tech. Those are the resources, right? But take it with a grain of salt. Just look around, look at the numbers, because 900 in equity, that's a really, really high number for an L6 CE. Now, the other thing that's interesting is no hiring committee. So I'll have to look at my resources. I've seen a little bit more of a trend in 2022 towards no HC, but I haven't heard of no HC for CEs. So it's something that I'll do my due diligence on. I think I answered your question, but you're definitely going to be anchoring into the high threes. And remember that initial equity number is always going to be low. So you can always push on that equity number. I hope that helps. Applied for the comp analyst role. Okay, completed 4 interviews. Awesome. The recruiter has communicated that your interviews have been completed and calibration is in process. Wanted to ask what the calibration is about. Additionally, expected complete total comp and preferred date also is asked if that is a positive sign. Additionally, recruiter is also asked. Yeah, they're just trying to touch base with you. Sometimes calibration means that it's their job to articulate better and for you to ask, what does calibration mean? Are you calibrating with the hiring manager and hiring team with me against other potential candidates that you're interested in? Or are we talking about calibration in regards to hiring committee? Again, sometimes I think that the recruiters don't realize how much data is out there, and that we just need to make sure that we're asking great questions, because they're not always providing us all the great data. Okay. I hope that helps. What's a good anchor for an L6 product manager in Austin? If we're gonna anchor L6 product, I would anchor in the high fours. Yeah, you're not gonna get L6 product in Bay and New York coming in the door, 500K 4-year average. I mean, at these product roles, if you want to get into a good role, product's a great role. Of course, it's crazy competitive, but product managers now get paid the same as software engineers. So I would anchor around 500 and hope to come in as a 4-year average somewhere in that 440, 450 range. But could year 1 be 500? Absolutely. HC result is positive, but recruiter informed that they are still reviewing a few applications for this role and asked me to wait for next steps, i.e. offer stage or fitment discussion of other roles. Will HC cleared candidates land an offer? Sometimes. I mean, typically, if we're casting a wide net, yeah. Probably 80 to 90% of HC cleared candidates will get an offer, but if they can't find a team, I don't know why they would take you to HC and then pause, especially if they had a specific team for you. So this is a little bit of a weird step. Again, as much clarity as we can go back and ask the right questions and get more data. But clearing HC, if they can't find you a team or don't identify the team, it's not always a guarantee, but the guarantee is that if it doesn't work out this time around, you will have other opportunities because you've passed HC, and that means you're a viable candidate. There's going to be some form of an offer coming sometime in the future. I just can't guarantee when that would be. Hi, Jeff. What is the level for a financial analyst at Apple? Um, yeah, Tyler, I think it should be an ICT3. I'm pretty sure, but again, level is less important than comp. That's the piece that we care about is compensation. My recruiter says you have your last interview, googliness, for a strategy analyst role. Is it common to have more than one candidate interviewing at the last phase? Yep. Yeah. Imagine that you have competition. Are there 15 people at the last stage? No, no, there's not. But could there be two or three or four or five getting in the onsite or in the onsite process or at that last stage with you? Absolutely. Right. So the competition is fierce. I think the big statement that sometimes recruiters make that's untrue is that there's just this line of candidates behind you if you get through HC and you're at the offer stage. That's usually uncommon. They're not going to take multiple candidates through HC. Hiring managers aren't writing multiple statements of support. But when you're in the interview process itself, yeah, high likelihood that you are competing against a lot of others. All right, we're finally getting to 10 o'clock, so we're only 16 minutes behind, which is actually pretty good. So thanks, Corwin. Welcome. You had your on-sites recently. No talks about compensation yet. In case I receive an offer, how should I initiate salary negotiation, assuming they won't give me the best possible offer right away? Well, so I just want you to sit back a little bit and just see what happens. But at some point, they're going to come in and ask about compensation, and that's when you're going to anchor pretty high, good 20 to 30% over what you want. Now, remember, with my anchor high recommendation, the only time I want you to be really careful is I want you to be really careful if it's not a big, big company, because like a startup, if you come in and anchor high, that can scare them away. But for these big companies, just remember, they've heard it all. So you're in a fine position. It's totally okay. But just know that about anchoring. Okay. It's just a really, really important item. I hope that helps. Hi, Rubina. Welcome. Okay. Great question. Is interviewing at YouTube different than Google? No. Same process. Yeah. And remember, it's kind of interesting because sometimes we think about YouTube, especially if you're in the Bay, and they have this huge San Bruno office, which is right by the airport outside San Francisco airport. And it's this awesome, really cool office. Like you walk in and you feel like you're at YouTube. It's got this huge screen and all this stuff. But YouTube's really embedded within the organization as well. And for that reason, the interview process is essentially identical. L5 TAM offer for Atlanta. 4-year average is around 248, and 2-year average is 278. Does that seem like a reasonable offer? Yeah, it does. Now, remember, there's a couple things to know about TAMs. Okay, so I have some data on this, and this is obviously just the benefit that the audience will get because I have TAM negotiation clients. TAMs don't pay as well as they should. Meaning, like, it's a technical client facing role where you're very strategic, but I just find overall these roles don't pay quite as good as I believe they should. So, I would be trying to push that 4-year average of around 250 because it's an L5 up as much as you can. Atlanta is a super tough market to push offers up. I've not had fantastic success driving offers up significantly in the Atlanta market, but I definitely just try as much as you can to push that 4-year average up by 10, 15K if you can. I still think there's probably a little bit of wiggle room in here. It's a reasonable offer for sure. It's not a bad offer for the market, but if you can push it up at all, just push back a little bit, Vivian, okay? Can you please suggest which level L5 and L6 base package negotiated in Waterloo, Canada for a TSE manager? Which level? Okay, I'm going to do my best here, but let's see. Also, what level of technical interview questions? Okay. All right. So I'll tackle this to the best of my ability. So Waterloo, it's going to be a bit of a downtick. Think of it like more like maybe a Chicago or Atlanta market in the US. So L5, L6. I'm just going to go L5 just because it's hard to do all the levels at once. L5, TSE, Waterloo, kind of that mid two range would be good. USD. So kind of that try and push for that 4-year average as much around the mid twos as possible. Might not quite hit that, but something like that. And again, that's USD. Also, what level of technical interview questions does this come at this level for this role? Or is this mostly people management type? Nope. The questions are foundational technical questions. I haven't also seen, I guess now I can tell you, I haven't seen TSE. Oh, it's a TSE manager. Oh, sorry, I missed that. Okay. Yeah, for a TSE manager, it could be a 6. But I would usually they'll try and down level you again. That's very common. You're going to get a little bit of leadership, but you're still going to get some hands-on technical because they want to know that you can technically support the TSEs that report to you. I hope that helps. If you need more info, come back. They said best and final. Okay. With best and final. Okay, this is a great moment for us as a crowd. So if you're here, for my negotiation clients, when we hit that best and final stage, typically I'm having a success rate of over 50% on getting more. And that's, Vivian, when you come back, what you say is, you say, we are really close. And thank you so much. And I'm really excited. Right now we're at 248.5 in terms of a 4-year average. If we can get to 258.5, I'd be willing to accept this offer. So you just push back one more time. Okay, just one more time. And if they're like, look, I said best and final to your recruiter, let's imagine your recruiter is Jane. You say, Jane, I'd really appreciate if you could take my expectation back to the comp team one more time. And it's a really, really reasonable request. We're only asking for 10K more, right? It's just 10K more on our 4-year average. It's not a huge number. Worst case scenario, they say no. So whenever we get that best and final, just worst case scenario, just push back in the kindest, most friendly way. Oftentimes for my clients, we're getting 10 to 15K more per year in our 4-year average, just by spending 2 to 3 minutes pushing back on a best and final. Worst case scenario, it's a no. But best case scenario, definitely we can push the needle a little bit. So I suggest you try. Do all recruiters give you the specific structure of an interview? No, many don't. And that's where you have to ask. And if they say, I can't tell you, say, I'm finding that, thank you, but I'm finding that a little surprising because my friend Bob is interviewing for a similar position and their recruiter told them what each interview would be. So is there a reason why, or is there some confidentiality that's not allowing you to just kind of highlight for me, whether it's an RRK, GCA, Googliness, and leadership? I've done a lot of research on Google and I'm surprised that I can't be told what I'm interviewing for in each interview. That is not confidential. There's nothing confidential in saying, hey, you're going into an RRK interview or this is a GCA interview. What's confidential about that? They've given you literally no data other than to just tell you which interview is which. So definitely push back if they won't tell you. I'm hearing a lot of that they won't tell you. They say it's confidential, and that's not true. Hey, Jeff, you want to work at Google for a long time? What's the best tip? Well, if you wanted to work at Google for a long time, I imagine that sometimes it maybe we do all this stuff, right? And so much of my coaching is around interviews and negotiations, but getting in the door can be difficult. So, the best tip I have if you're trying to get in is build a strong networking strategy. And we'll throw a resource in there when we timestamp to take you to that video that will literally walk you through the plan. Networking videos do terrible on YouTube. And I have a mastermind group of other YouTube interview coaches that I talk with on a weekly basis, and all of us want to share all the networking tips, but nobody watches them. So we don't create those videos, and it's a bad cycle. But create a networking strategy, and it can't just be one reach out a week, 40 or 50 a week. Create the plan, create the number per day, even if it's 25 per week, 5 per day every weekday. That's going to be a great way to get in the door. And then, of course, interview skills over time will pay you millions of dollars more in your career, millions. So building up those interview skill sets by practicing with others can be super, super beneficial. Okay, how do you start the conversation for negotiation over the phone? Also, what is the salary for an L3 accounting analyst, new grad, Chicago or Atlanta? You're having trouble researching that exact role online. Okay, so how do you start for negotiation over the phone? So we want to hold off as long as we can on the negotiation conversation, because when they like us and want to hire us, it becomes easier to negotiate. When somebody likes you, it's easy to push for what you want. So wait as long as you can. Then when they're ready, we're going to anchor high. So new grad L3 accounting analyst, that 4-year average is going to be right around 150. Okay, so it doesn't mean that the year one number can't be 170, 175, something like that, but you may want to anchor probably around 200K or in the high ones. Anchor at 198.5 or something relatively unique. That would be my recommendation. Okay, awesome. Yeah, glad that the interview skills help. I hope we're doing some good stuff, and obviously the audience is kind of supporting that they like what we're doing. So thank you. Do you mind sharing what would be a good compensation target for L5 hardware engineer, as well as a good starting anchor? Yeah, I mean, hardware is not going to pay as well as a SWE, but I would want you to make right around that 300K as a 4-year average and well into the threes in year one. And I'd be anchoring in the mid to high threes. Probably a bit of a different question. Okay, I like different questions, but for someone building their skills to get that first role, what can they do to maximize their chances with recruiters when they don't have real world experience yet? Yeah, so we find this a lot with people who are early in their career. Maybe they've had an internship, maybe they have an educational background, and they've spent most of their time just in school projects. So we can apply what we've learned in some sort of formal setup into the interviews. And when speaking with recruiters, we're just trying to translate that experience, whether it's collaboration or technology or process or strategy. That can be school projects as well. Translating it for the recruiter is going to be less important than translating it ultimately in the interviews. I hope that helps. I know it's high level. Come back with more questions. Okay, it looks like maybe maybe this came in, unless I missed it. I don't think I missed it. Okay, I'm just gonna read through it and then we'll make sense of it, because this is 2 and 2. You have 6 years of work experience. How can I tell the truth to the recruiter to increase my compensation? Okay, let's see. So the first, I think this got out of order somehow. So I'm waiting on Amazon's response. If you got an L5 from Amazon, but an L3 from Google, how do you let Google meet Amazon's piece? Okay. The first price is less than expectation of 600K. They added 60K, 10% on the base. 600K, 600K for an L5. I don't know of a single L5 role that pays 600K. Even a SWE, software engineer, that would be extremely high. Of course, if you want to go back to Google and show them your L5 offer or give them the verbal, this is tricky for people because there's like the NDA. I always say you can share the numbers. They're not going to find out or come back to you. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but usually you can share those numbers. But if you're coming in as an L3 at Google and L5 at Amazon, which is typically an L4 at Google, 600K is an extremely high expectation. So I would ask, why are you expecting to make 600K? Now, 600K could be in a different currency, but at 600K USD would be what I would consider an unreasonable expectation. So come back, let us know, give us a few more details. Quick pause, 30 minutes in. If you like what we're doing, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, please subscribe. And I do have an unbelievable, amazing course coming out. It's supposed to be 3/1. I'm probably going to have to push back that date a couple weeks. I've pushed back a couple times. Systems, we've really systemized everything for you, and the content's unbelievable. I'm just trying to clean it up. I've been working on this for a long time, and I'm really excited. So I want to just keep prompting to that a little bit. All right, back to questions. Okay, so some feedback from your session about taking control. Okay, awesome. After getting ghosted by Google, I put what you said into practice about asking about communication touch points. It's relieved a lot of stress. Okay, good. I mean, I think let's just talk about this for a second. This is really important for the audience, right? Like, we can take control. And so much of what I see with the questions coming in are questions about trying to control something that is uncontrollable. And again, this is where I wear a little bit of that life coaching hat, but it's just, I've seen enough questions over time to know that we're trying to get that exact date or exact time or exact response or exact likelihood of making it through. And nobody can answer those questions. Nobody. So when we remove all the anxiety and say, hey, we can't control all that, but we can control our communication with the recruiter, our communication in the interviews. We just want to focus in on what we can control, and that's all we can do. So I'm glad to hear that helped. And I can tell you, like for my course that I built, anxiety and mindset is the first module. Because if we don't have that foundational item, we're not going to have success in any part of the process if we don't manage our anxiety and create the right mindset. Thanks for the comment. It's been 2 weeks since you completed all your rounds. No updates from the recruiter or sourcer after multiple follow-ups. Strange a firm like Google would ghost candidates. Yes, it is strange. So let's see. I think you have another question down here. Let's go to this. Reached out to a Googler who recently joined the same role. I was told it took 3 weeks for him to get a response with an offer, hoping for the best. Okay, let's hope for the best. Now remember, if it's been a couple weeks, now we can uptick the communication. So every few days, check in. I'm still super excited and enthusiastic. Just wanted to check in again. Hope you're having a great day. 3 days later, how are you? Are you having a fantastic day? I hope so. Just wanted to check in. Still excited about the role. Positive, positive, positive. Keep that tone positive. And then if we hit 3 weeks, 4 weeks with no response, then you are going to utilize your friend, you are going to utilize your recruiting coordinator, sourcer, anybody to get in, because the reality is that not responding is just, it's a bad system and shows a lack of organization on the recruiter side. Okay. Could you make a video tailored towards college students and new grads trying to get interviews and jobs at Google? Okay, so I tell everybody the same thing. I get a lot of requests for videos, and I appreciate that, and I can work on something for new grads, for freshers, and see how I pivot my focus. I can tell you right now, the new grad roles, the intern roles, the associate roles, they tend to lean a little bit more behavioral, but all the other items are the same. But it's not a bad idea, and I appreciate it. I think sometimes with the YouTube videos, there's just a lot of work that goes into it. And I have a list of videos, but I do really like that idea. So thank you. It's definitely something I'll consider. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, 230 4-year average, industry hire, 3 years of experience. This is around what I'm looking for. I'm looking for anything in that 225 to 250 range as a 4-year average. And obviously, if your 4-year average is 230, it means you're coming in at probably 250-ish in year one. Yep, that's right in the ballpark. And I think levels.fyi would confirm that. I mean, it's a great, L3 Swiss make unbelievable money in comparison to the rest of the world. So especially in the Bay. So I think it's a really, really good number. Of course, you can always push back and ask for a little bit more. But as long as that year one number at a 33%, you're coming in right around 250, and that's right in the middle. That's a good number. But if you want to push back, obviously, I always recommend it. How about for a senior customer success role in San Francisco? I imagine we're talking about comp. So just because we're behind, I'm going to answer that. But remember, if anybody has a question about negotiation, now levels.fyi and Team Blind are your two best resources. I'm happy to give you those numbers. Exact level, exact location, and exact role always are going to be super helpful for me to get that data to you and move on to other questions that we can answer for the community. So senior customer success role in San Francisco. Yes, senior, I'll put it at an L5, into the 3s, and then an L6 for really getting senior. You want that 4-year average to be, definitely above the mid 3s with maybe a year 1 number at 400. Yep. Yeah, not 10%. It's going to be more than 10% for Austin, more like 15% from the Bay Area. And, I think one of the sentiments that I hear a lot is, oh, this area is getting so expensive. This area is getting so expensive. So is the Bay, right? So as every market in the country is moving up, you're trying to move to the market with the biggest amount of people with disposable income, and have this conversation all the time. I grew up in the Northeast in Boston, and I spent a ton of time in New York. The Bay is more expensive than New York, and here's the reason. In New York, you can actually get away from the money. You can go out to Queens or parts of Brooklyn, or you can go north up to Yonkers, or you can go out to take the path out to Jersey and buy something affordable. You have to go pretty far out in the Bay to get anything affordable, and that's why I think the Bay is actually more expensive. Just a side note. Love those little side notes in these lives. Okay. My recruiter, today I got to hire for an L3 SWE from HC, and I'm already team matched. Comp will be discussed tomorrow. Amazing. Remember, we just saw L3 SWE. We don't know the location, but just remember to negotiate. Remember to negotiate as much as you can. If your recruiter gave me a range of salary, bonus, and estimated start date, is that a good sign? You will want to double check with them and just make sure that you know where you are in the process. Sounds like a buying sign. So it's good news, but I'm just trying to understand. Have I passed HC? Where am I at? Do I need to do a team match? Just find out a little bit more data from them. Last week, you got a call from your recruiter for a GCP customer engineer, and you were told that the feedback was positive after on-sites, but they want more time to interview additional candidates. Okay. Does this mean I didn't do as well as I thought, or is this standard practice? Okay, here's what happened. You did great. You did great to make it through all the interviews, but it wasn't a slam dunk, okay? So what that means is you did great, but they want to see if others can perform better than you. You're going to have plenty of opportunities if you did great. But yeah, it wasn't 100% that they were over the moon about you. And again, this is just me giving candid feedback, but you did do well enough. If you hadn't done well, they would have already said, hey, look, it wasn't a fit. So clearly they think you're a fit, but there was probably something in the performance that wasn't ideal for them to want to review other candidates. I hope that helps. We've had 3 interviews, and now the recruiter set up an informal virtual coffee chat with the director. What do you expect the agenda to be? Absolutely, it's a positive sign. The agenda, what do I expect the agenda to be? We don't know. So I want you to be prepared for anything. Some come into these informal chats and they interview you. Some come in and they don't ask any questions. They just say, hey, what are your questions? The most standard, though, is that they typically come in, they tell you a little bit about themselves, what they're looking for, and then they give you time for questions. So you can see I'm trying to take up a lot of space in these lives. I'm always standing. Stand, bring great enthusiasm, energy, excitement, and 20 to 30 questions. Just have a ton of questions ready for them. You never want to run out of questions in these sessions. and the questions need to be super, super positive. Yeah, it depends on the role. So if it's a product role, I would imagine that they have probably 2 HCs a week for product, maybe 1, but at this point, in the US, I would think it would be 2 a week would be my best guess. I can't say for sure, but definitely on a weekly basis, absolutely. About the background verification. 6 years back, you worked at a company part-time, nothing documented. No, nothing to document. Okay. Just highlight that to your recruiter, and you can say, hey, put this on the application, but it was really informal, so we can remove it from the application. Don't worry about that piece. If you felt like it was informal, just say, hey, remove it. Like, I work there, I can give you documentation. Just make sure you're communicating that. So if anything got flagged, boom, that can go right into the system. The email communication, it's in the notes. They can see, oh, no, they flagged that. They said that that was the case. Get in front of it. If we have anything in our background that we want to get in front of it, because the fact that you've highlighted it will be absolutely critical for you later in the process. No. Yeah, all those like cost of labor between cities, that stuff, that data's not great. They're going to talk to you about rent and groceries and transportation and all this stuff. Market to market, you just got to take a holistic picture. But no, I haven't found a great resource there, honestly. I can't. They're all over the place. One place says the average 1-bedroom in San Francisco is 2,000. The other one says it's 5,000. They say groceries are 1,500 a week, 500 a week. Like, it's too crazy. And that's all cost of living. Cost of labor, very, very hard to find. So no, unfortunately, I haven't found a good resource on that. Started interviewing with Google last June, 2 different ad sales roles. They didn't work out. 1 headcount was lost. 2, they went with another candidate. They came back to me with another position. Okay. In December, which interviewed 2 weeks ago, the recruiter called and said I performed well, but going forward with other candidates. But he has another role. Okay. Agency dev manager. Okay, that's close. Thinks you'd be a good fit for. I know this is positive because they're keeping my name in the ring, but it feels like this will be a never-ending cycle. Any advice? Keep doing what you're doing. Whatever you're doing is working, right? So all you can do is keep working at your craft and your skill. If you're getting into all these interviews and you're really close, are you practicing with other human beings? Are you doing that on a daily basis, at least a few times a week? Because if you're not, and you're at this part of the process, you really need to drive that. And while you'll never see me push towards paid coaching, maybe that's the thing you need. And maybe it's not me, it could be somebody else, but get some professional advice, because if you're this close, there's probably 2 or 3 things that you're just missing a little bit. You're really close, but a little bit of professional coaching or just practicing with another person, those are my strong, strong recommendations. Some emails, but nothing concrete. Yeah, same advice. How far will Google veer off their salary range? Yeah, on the base salary range, not that much. Now, remember, we're not supposed to be experts in negotiation. And we could say, I really was looking for 175K on the base. We're not supposed to know that those base ranges are like laser thin. So just push back. But typically what you'll see on the salary ranges is about 20 to 30K, and that's it. Even in this, 15K. And that's probably because the range actually is higher, but they're not going to bring you in the door in the top 50% or the higher band of the range. So if it was actually 150 to 180, they're trying to bring you in the lower salary band. But the salary bands are tight. The thing that we really can negotiate and push the process on is equity. It's always equity. Made it to hiring committee. I'm very excited. Awesome. Why am I talking to the hiring manager before the packet goes to HC? Okay. Why are you talking to the hiring manager, and how does that help if it went really well? Just take it as a positive. Like, again, I'm standing. I have to stand for that conversation, even if it's a phone call. Just stand, get your excitement, get your enthusiasm up. The hiring manager is Sue. Sue is my favorite interviewer and hiring manager. Sue, I'm so pumped to be chatting with you again. Really excited. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about my background. I've also brought some questions to the table. Just what you're trying to do is emphasize and reiterate that they have made a fantastic decision in choosing you. So be massively, massively positive. Okay. And if you can bring that great positivity to the table, that is going to just, again, reinforce is the word I'm looking for. Reinforce the reason why you are a fit. Okay. So win them over again. It's all good. Like, just continue to push that positivity. You accepted an offer from Google and you started next month. You watched so many of them. They helped tremendously. Amazing. Okay, 45 minutes in, we get our first confirmation of a hire. Thank you so much. Again, I always reiterate the same thing. You are here because of the work that you put in, and we were a tiny part of the journey, but I'm glad that you utilized some of the tips and tricks. And the reason why I love this so much is it just shows people what's possible. I think sometimes it feels so overwhelming, but it can be done. It just requires some hard work. That's all. Congrats. Okay, Tyler, great question. This is a great question for everybody. How easy is it to move within teams in Google? It's pretty easy once you're established, but for 2 years, you're not moving. Or it just doesn't make a lot of sense to move in the first couple of years. The first year, you're just getting your feet wet. You're really learning the organization. You're learning how to make a contribution. Then in year 2, you're really showing how you're contributing at that next level to get promoted. Then when you get promoted, and this is actually, I never really talk about this, so this is a great question. When you get promoted, that is the best time to flip, because if you get promoted and then you wait a year to switch teams, your promotion path is going to slow down. So when you get promoted, that's the best time to switch, because then you can build up the rapport within that team and then get promoted in that role. 2 years though, wait 2 years. Anything less than 2 years, it's usually a little bit too short. Okay, you had a functional interview for an SPM Google Shopping. I think you did fine in the behavioral questions, but stuck on the problem solving given GCA, though overall you get the gist. Okay, let's see here. And then closed interview by asking interviewer if there's any feedback on further improving, and he said it was a nice conversation, and called recruiter and said to wait for 2 weeks. Is that normal? I guess it is. I guess every recruiter is just saying 2 to 3 weeks, and I don't know. That's crazy to me. Like, if they're not getting interview feedback in 48 to 72 hours, they've forgotten the conversation. And maybe it's just because the pipelines are getting so robust that they're doing this, but I just think the whole system is broken, right? And I think, candidly, I come in and I talk a little bit about this. People see how long the process is. As a recruiter, it's also a little overwhelming because the process can be so long and so slow, and there's so many pieces of the puzzle. So just got to be patient. But yeah, the 2 weeks, the 3 weeks, I'm hearing a lot of this lately. On-site interviews recently, RRK, GCA, and leadership, and now waiting for the next steps. Should your recruiter tell you how you did on those interviews, some kind of feedback? They should. If you haven't heard back after 5 business days, follow up. In your experience for GCP PSO RRK, L5, L6, are there more open-ended questions or case study type scenarios? Well, you should have probably a case study for this interview. You'll want to confirm that with your recruiter. But nobody can tell you whether you'll have more open-ended or more behavioral questions, because that is interviewer specific. They come in, they have a pick and choose list. I always picked open-ended questions. I don't think that would surprise anybody in this audience that I always asked open-ended questions. I never asked behavioral questions. I didn't like them. Now I understand more of the value. I didn't used to really see the value in them, but now I do. But I used to always ask open-ended. So it really depends on your interviewer. 5 years of experience, got an offer for an L3 SWE, salary already on the top of the band. How difficult is it to move to L4? If your recruiter or hiring manager is not giving you an indication that they are willing to up-level you, the likelihood's pretty much 0%. Now, again, this is a control item. So you could come in and say, what would the process be to move up to an L4? If I was willing to do more interviews, is that a viable option? Is that a possibility? Yes or no? That's the only question we can ask. And then changing teams, again, same commentary, 2 years. I really think you need to establish yourself for a couple of years. As a SWE, maybe a little faster, but 2 years is my default. Hey, Irma. Nice to see you as well. Thanks for hopping in here. I hope all is well with you. Thank you, Jeff. You started with Google. Really appreciate your help. Your content is top-notch. Get a one-on-one session. Thanks, Nick. Uncover the weak spots and set you up for success. Thank you so much, Nick. You know, what I want to highlight with what Nick is saying, again, I'm never going to push my services on anybody. I think everybody knows that's my style. But when you practice with somebody, they are going to uncover some weak spots, some gaps, some things you're not seeing. The value in practicing with another human being ultimately can mean millions of dollars difference. And I'm talking USD, but in most parts of the world, millions of dollars. And it's just because we're not setting the best practice strategy for ourselves. Practice with other human beings. I want you to do the mirror work. I want you to video and record yourself, of course, but then we have to apply that with somebody else. So that's going to be the most important. Thank you so much, Nick. Congrats. Thanks for showing up and thanking us. We always really appreciate that. You received an email from your recruiter that all rounds are cleared and they asked me to fill up a packet spreadsheet. How likely am I to get an offer and keep the compensation field blank? Yep, keep the compensation field blank. Likelihood of passing HC 1 in 3, depending on the role. With a potential follow-up interview, I think it goes up to like 40%. So that's the best I can tell you. I don't know for sure. HC is like the Wild West. I mean, I sat in so many of those, and sometimes candidates that I thought were a slam dunk didn't get through, and then sometimes candidates that I thought I was just sneaking in there got through. So there's some variability there. Let's just put it that way. When discussing comp with my recruiter, they told me comp band does not exist anymore. So give me your highest number. That's absolutely incorrect. Unless, I mean, I don't know. I can't remember if you're interviewing at Google. Comp bands always exist because there's internal equity. And internal equity means that we're not going to pay an L3 software engineer $1 million while we're paying all the other ones $250,000, say, in the Bay Area. So no, there's always bands, there's always limits. And so that is the weirdest comment I've heard. And we hear all sorts of stuff in these lives. So giving your highest number though, yeah, anchor high. Don't go crazy, but 20 to 30% over what you want, sure. I hope that helps. That is really strange, but fun for us to see, I guess. What is the maximum base for an L3? Is it possible to be larger for L4? How about a situation if it happened before promotion, L3 to L4? I forget the role and location. So without role and location, I can't answer that question. So please come back. I did not find much info on vendor performance manager position at Google. Yep. I have a phone screen with the recruiter. You have 7 years of experience in this role, but it's non-tech. Yeah. Vendor performance manager. The best data is going to be more like program management. Remember, it's just going to be program management with that external lean. Look at program management and technical account managers. They're not the exact same, but basically, this is a client-facing role where you're going to have those strong program management skills. I used to hire vendor program managers, and it's not too different. So look at that program manager framework. Look at some of the program manager videos that I did. Those will be helpful for you. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the help. Your channel has played a tremendous role in my journey, Google interview, and you will make sure to spread the word. And that's all I ask. If you like this content and you think it might help anybody else, spread the word. I have clients coming back all the time asking me for they can give testimonials or post stuff online or pay me more money. And it's just spread the word. The socialization piece is the biggest value I think you can provide. So I appreciate that. All right, Stephen, where are you at? Second round, program manager with Meta. Okay, recruiter wanted me to lock in on the base range. You did not give a base range. He informed me that they would not go over 200K base for Chicago. Okay, don't worry about it because in your range, for your level, Stephen, at Meta, you're going to have probably a 15% bonus at least. You're going to get great equity. So don't worry too much. And this is what I tell everybody going into big tech. Don't worry too much about the base, especially at like the Googles and Metas of the world, even Apple, because the equity is going to be so good. Can you share estimate total comp level 5 CE in Germany? Absolutely. So there's two markets. Munich's the more common market. I think Munich's the bigger office, but there's a smaller office in Berlin. Those will pay a little bit differently. L5 CE Germany. You know, I would hope to get around that 200K-ish number. Germany is one of the better paying markets across Europe. It's kind of like Zurich is its own market. And then, you know, the UK is starting to get better, specifically London's getting better, but Germany's close, 200K-ish. We do some research, but something around there I think would be good. As an extended workforce Google recruiter, do you have any experience as an internal Google recruiter working with XWF? Also, would like to, also, what do you like about an awesome sourcer from a recruiter point of view? Okay, interesting. So I was the same. I worked at Google, but I was a contractor. I got really fortunate. I was in the interview process after 4 months of being there. I just, right timing, perfect storm. Contractors don't get in full-time interviews after 4 months, and I wasn't the only one. My buddy and I on the same team took over an entire team. Just everybody left, and we had to take on everything, and we got lucky, and he's still with Google, and he's 10 times the recruiter I am. So I'm familiar, okay, but this is extended workforce. So maybe let's talk about the sourcing piece. With sourcers, I just want excellent levels of communication. I want you to tell me, if you're going to share Jane Smith's profile with me, write 3 bullets for why Jane Smith is a great fit and what you're seeing as a match for their resume, LinkedIn profile to the JD. Make it really easy for me and make sure your communication is exceptional. Great follow-up. Never make me wait more than 24 hours or create a 12-hour SLA or something where you're always going to have a system for getting back to me quickly that will make me come back to you time and time again. I hope that helps. If you have more questions, let me know. And so we're approaching the hour mark, and I am pretty far behind, so I will start to speed up a little bit as we hit this hour mark. If you haven't smashed that like button, I know it's hilarious to say smash the like button, or I just think it's funny. Hit that like button. If you like our overall content, please subscribe. And I am releasing a course. I think that 3/1 date's going to have to be pushed out just a little bit, but I'm so excited about that content. It puts everything together, systems, organization, and every module, it's 25 modules, is backed by exercises. So it applies the learnings to practical exercises. So just pumped, and I'm going to continue to mention that occasionally. Thanks. Okay. I'm in the interviewing for an AE financial division. Can you submit another application for an AE division right now, even though you're in the middle of interviewing? I wouldn't go an application. I would just highlight it to your recruiter. Hey, there's another role I'm interested in. Can we dual track? Call it dual track, but be careful. You're in the interview process. Don't rock the boat too much. That's my only recommendation. First phone screening with the recruiter tomorrow for Google for TAM. Will any technical questions be asked? Maybe. I can't control that. Recruiters are a bit of a wild card, so they could ask a technical question. Is it likely? No. They're probably going to just check for communication skills, just make sure everything's aligned. Show up on time, be gracious and kind, have great questions, right? But they could ask you a technical question. And I've had a couple of TPMs come back to me as clients, and they said, you asked me some crazy questions in the recruiter screen. I have no memory of that, but apparently I did that a little bit. So be ready for anything, but typically that's not a part of that conversation. Thanks for the live sessions. At what stage should I let my G recruiter know about my other interviews while interviewing, or only when I have a competing offer? Maybe before. So let's say that something escalates, right? Like you're interviewing with Apple and the on-sites went well. You might want to tell your Google recruiter, hey, just finished my on-sites at Apple and I'm starting to get positive feedback. Just wanted to keep you in the loop. Because once you get the offer, we're really behind, right? We're behind the 8 ball. So I want you to make sure that you're introducing that information early enough where we feel like we're going to have success, but not too late where Google's just going to take forever like they normally do. How do you explain a gap in your resume less than 6 months, and how do recruiters react to seeing a gap? Gaps are so common in the way we transition jobs over the last 10 to 15 years, so common because of COVID, because of just life changes. I don't even look at gaps. Now, if you had a 3-month, 3-month, 6-month, 3-month gap, 6-month, 3-month, yeah, I'm going to question it. But one gap, no worries. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Product manager, L3 or L4, location, please. Once you get into the interview process, it's approximately how many candidates are typically interviewed for each role at each stage? Ad sales role, first interview with HM, and then 2 cross-functional. For any role, as a recruiter, I was trying to get as many people into the process as possible. So I'd love to get 15 people into the phone interview process. Hopefully half would get to the on-site or now virtual on-site stage, and then hopefully one of those people passed. So typically at the on-site, most common is kind of that 5 to 7 range, and then for phone or those initial interviews, as many as I can. But it varies greatly, role to role, position to position. If I get an offer, I'm hiring you to negotiate. Yeah, I mean, again, one of the things I'll prompt is the ROI on negotiation coaching is unbelievable. You know, the average increase that I'll get for clients, you know, especially in these premium markets, you know, you're talking 40, 50, 60K a year. And it's just, again, knowing a little bit. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't go in, anchor high. Sometimes the negotiation coaches out there are best for the second and third negotiations, but I think it's a worthwhile investment. I think it's the best investment you can make, obviously, besides getting that practice interviews that are going to really set you up to get to the offer stage. Once I know interviews are being set up for an agency development role, you want to set up one-to-one coaching. What do you suggest coming prepared with? You want to crush your interviews. Having your behavioral answers prepared, having some sense of clarifying questions and frameworks that you might deliver, starting to think about some assumptions of like scenarios that you'll face in the role. Anybody who's looking to book with me, you know, I'm at a rolling of I get booked up typically about a week out. But remember, people move their sessions, they cancel sessions, so there'll always randomly be openings. But like, for instance, today, the next opening would be Tuesday of next week. Also, as I continue to build out the course, less weekend coaching, which I typically will do normally during the year, but I'm trying to keep most of my weekend time for finalizing the course. So as we hit April, you'll see more weekend time opening up. Talking to a talent acquisition friend at Google, your goal is to get referrals, but I think they can't as a talent acquisition. Should I keep it an informal interview? So May, they should, a talent acquisition person, yeah, you're right. They can't really refer people as a talent acquisition person unless they were referring you for a talent acquisition role. So just keep it informal, but see if they have any recommendations or suggestions for you. You've been prepping and practicing clarifying questions. I realized that I would need examples for each clarifying question and answer in case the interviewer goes down a different path. Different examples for each clarifying question and answer. Whitney, I'm a little confused by your question, but the goal of clarifying questions is to present data and see if they'll take you down a certain path. But remember, when we're creating our plan, we're creating those clarifying questions so that we could pivot pretty easily if they switch up our path a little bit. But your whole answer doesn't necessarily have to change based on their answer. So come back if you have more questions or want more clarification. We have an informal coffee chat with the director of YouTube Shorts for 15 minutes. Okay, after all 3 rounds. Any tips for this? What do chats mean? Super casual, stand, enthusiasm, excitement, bring great questions. You want it to go over 15 minutes. You want it to be 30 minutes. They are heavily pushing YouTube Shorts, and I am going to start throwing a lot more shorts out there to get your common questions answered, but this is a great opportunity. 20 to 30 questions, incredible enthusiasm and excitement, and remember, everything has a positive pitch and tone. What's your anchor for a possible L5, L6, GCP PSO role in Texas? It doesn't matter. Texas is broad, so they do a decent amount in Dallas. But obviously I'm going to focus in on Austin just because I'm so far behind. I'm a half an hour plus behind, so I'll answer the question. You're going to try and push to L5 into the high 2s as a 4-year average, like 275-ish, and then 325-ish as a 4-year average for an L6. Now you might be able to push both of those up. Again, that's 4-year average, so the first year number will be higher. And you're welcome. Hi, Jeff. Love the content. If an interviewer is helping during a GCA, does it mean you're going in the wrong direction? The question was about product management. You're approaching it as a project manager. Okay. Some interviewers are helpful and some like to help, and that's good. If they're helping us, it means that they like us and they want to see us be successful. So it's a good sign. And if they take you down a direction, so if we ever get into an interview and we're going down this lane and they take us down this lane, stop everything you're doing and go down that lane with them. We have to be able to pivot quickly because they're going to translate that to how quickly would you pivot on the job in the role. You passed portfolio review and you've been waiting for 4 weeks for team matching interviews, had a few updates from the source. What could you do? So Elizabeth, all you want to do is continue to check in. Hey, if you can go and find the roles online for them, find those roles. So what does that mean? If you find the link to a job you like, you'll send them the link. You'll send them the bullets for why you're a good fit for that link. You'll send them an updated resume. You will send them your availability to team match for that link. You have to go above and beyond. But this team matching stage is really an unknown. Sometimes we just, yes, unfortunately, sometimes we don't find a team or it just takes a long time. So just be patient. Awesome. And I think, Whitney, I didn't really answer your question. So come back if you want to get an answer. I will talk more briefly. Here are several questions. Okay, you're negotiating about Google L3 offer in Asia, so the number is just a reference. The percentage is more important. Okay, this is 1/6. However, you have more than 6 years of work experience. How to tell the recruiter to increase your compensation. The first price is less about my expectation, not USD. They only added 60K, 10%. What can you do? You're waiting on Amazon's response. How do I let Google meet Amazon's response? Okay, so Asia's a big market, so I don't know your market, the market that you're coming in. So without that data, but all I can tell you, just based on the amount of time that you're waiting to get this response, is that you just want to push back in a kind and friendly way, Okay, so it's all you can do. And as much as you feel comfortable sharing the information from one organization to the other, just continue to push back in a kind way. That's really all you can do. Contacted by a Google recruiter on LinkedIn before Xmas holiday and recently applied online, but she is saying since I applied online, she can't work with you. I honestly don't know why they would say that. So unless they were some sort of external recruiter and you're already in the system and they can't work with you, I would ask that question, why? Just ask them why they can't work with you. I think it's a fair question. Aspiring AS at Google here. You're having your GCA interview tomorrow. Any last second advice? Thanks to the content. Awesome. Awesome, Lucas. Okay, so last minute advice on the GCA. Just remember to make it ad specific in your solutions. And remember, imagine the assumed scenarios that you're going to face, right? So upset clients looking to have better customer satisfaction. How do you improve a customer satisfaction from 80 to 90%? If you haven't already gotten that question, high likelihood of that. How would you increase the revenue of a bowling alley? Common question. An insurance company is looking to get new parents to buy life insurance. These are a few of the ones. How would you help them? These are a few of the ones that I've seen. So just remember, always be thinking about everything and all the data that they've introduced. Slow down, take your time, but always answer with ads, solutions, always. Again, any idea what the level for a search specialist GTech role? Yeah, specialist roles are typically L3, maybe L4. Yeah, so again, I would just go back to them and see if they can refer you. Just ask them more questions. Say you're really interested. Okay, test engineer automation. Again, I don't know the location, and there's a lot of locations across Asia, but all I want you to do is take the advice and be generous and kind and push back and try and drive the comp up as much as you can. 4 years of work experience as an FA, you're applying for program manager roles now. Can you please recommend what kind of skills you should build? Yeah, I mean, basically, analysts translate really, really well to program managers. And it's a common transition because analysts have a lot of people skills, a lot of data skills, and oftentimes are managing maybe something that's a little bit more ongoing. So I just want you to apply those skills, but anything you can bring in or learn in the project or program management space, whether that's getting a certification or just thinking through your examples of how you've managed larger programs or projects, is going to be super beneficial. Hi, Jeff. Are there any processes in place for applicants with autism? In reality, it's a mistake to disclose this to a recruiter. You're particularly concerned with processing open-ended questions. This is tricky. Actually, this isn't the first time I've had this question. And ultimately, disclosing is your decision, right? So if you want to disclose that item, it's really a very, very personal decision that I can't make for you. Open-ended questions are challenging for everybody. So my strong recommendation to anybody is to slow down. Take your time. Take a full minute. If you need a minute and a half, take a minute and a half to process the information. And then obviously all the practice and prep will be applicable. But it is a very, very personal decision. And if you want to share, I think that's fine. But it's up to you. I hope that helps. The comp for fully remote tends to be lower because oftentimes we're remote in an area where the cost of labor is lower. So remote will be based on cost of labor for your area. And then they pay at the 75th percentile for cost of labor. And then even that initial offer will be low. So you'll have to negotiate, but that's how it works. Growth manager, app sales, Bangalore. What can you expect for 8 years of experience? Recruiter plus another round with a teammate done. Teammate round was mixed. Okay, so we're not really there yet. And years of experience Doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's only level. And I tell everybody, I mean, I came into Google with 13 years of experience. I was hired as an L4, right? So it's a reminder. Come back, let us know when you're a little, show up to another live when you're a little bit further in the process. Please, thank you. Last time you applied to Google, your recruiter asked you to reach out in March or February. March, when they have a plan for new hires in the department. Is it a good idea to start contacting them now? Sure. It's February. I'm excited. I just wanted to reach out, tell you that I'm still available. Maybe you provide an updated resume. Maybe you provide a few roles that you found online with bullets for why you're a fit. Provide anything and everything that's going to make their life easier. Nope. It's just the planning is slow worldwide. Yeah. Done with 3 rounds of Google. You got 2 strong hires, while the other one gave me a lower rating. Don't know the rating. I have been called for the final round. What rating do you think? I got one of the panelists who gave me a low rate. I got from the one panelist gave me a low rating and how it impacted my hiring chances. Can't tell you. Varies role to role. All you can do is control that last interview and crush it. If you crush 3 and 1 is not as good, maybe they just take you through. Maybe they give you an opportunity to redo it. Can't go backwards. So we just got to go forwards, and you got to put all your energy and effort into crushing this one. Leave it behind. Move on. That's the best advice I can give you. Done with virtual onsite. This is the 3rd week you're waiting. We'll ping to ask about what's going on in the 4th week. Nope. It's time for you to ping them now. So I strongly recommend that you ping them now. And just gracious, kind, enthusiastic. I'm so excited. Just wanted to check in. Really excited about next steps. But now's the time. Hi, TPM L6. SF had a technical and TPM portions, 2 interviews left for onsite. What should you focus in on? Mr. G, just keep doing the same things you're doing. You had your technical and program management portions. So you might have, so technical is usually technical judgment. So you probably have your GCA and G&L. So GCA, solve wearing the hat of the role, and then G&L, both sides of the coin, positive, negative with a behavioral lean, and just be ready for anything. But that's what I would imagine where you are in the process. Hey, Jeff, great content. You made it through all the rounds, finished all the interviews in November last year. Recruiter never gave me an answer. You followed up in December and he said he had no update, same in January. Okay, so at this point, you will follow up one last time and with graciousness and kindness say, you know, I hope I've been patient. I interviewed in November and we're in February, and I'd really like to know if I'm still in consideration, if my application has been closed out, etc. If it has been closed out, I just like any feedback if at all possible. And then if they don't give you any answer, you need to go to the recruiting coordinator, the sourcer, find people on LinkedIn who you interviewed with and say, I don't have feedback yet. I don't know if I passed. And then when the survey comes, you will absolutely crush that recruiter, because you can't interview in November and us be in February and you don't have a definitive decision. And even if they don't have a decision, they should be articulating that information to you. I'm really sorry that this is happening. That's just unbelievable to imagine being in your shoes. There's just no empathy there. And I'm sorry that you're going through this experience. Total comp you should target for a search specialist, activation role in Dublin. Please give a breakdown. All right, L3, Dublin, you're gonna make 50, 60K euro base, 15% bonus, and then the equity, they're gonna come in real low, like 50K USD, 40K USD, so push a little bit on the base and a little bit on the equity. Can you negotiate a higher salary at Google without a competing offer? The recruiter said I did really well in the interview per the feedback, but requires a competing offer to negotiate. Unless this is like a new grad position or something where they have a fixed comp, you can always negotiate. So come back and let us know if it's like a fixed role, like a new grad hire, which sometimes have fixed compensation, but you can always negotiate without a competing offer, always. Hi. Okay. Hi, Jeff. Great content. Use your content to prep for the first interview and now proceeded to onsite. What's your advice to prep for GCA Tech Ops Manager? Solve wearing the hat of a Tech Ops Manager. Regardless of how random or crazy the question is, get back to Tech Ops. That will be your saving grace. And remember, in all these answers, the biggest and most critical point of failure in these GCA questions is not making specific assumptions. Don't give me food. We all like food. Food's good. I want pepperoni pizza. And the reason why I use that pepperoni pizza visual is because we can all picture it. We might not eat cheese. We might not eat pepperoni. We might not eat bread, but we can picture that slice of pepperoni pizza. And so often I'm being given food and I'm like, I like food, but it's not as good as pepperoni pizza. Okay. If you sign up for interview practice with you, are all sessions directly with you? Yes. For anybody watching this live, you may have worked with Tosif or Hong Lu or John in the past. In order to simplify the business this year, I no longer have any coaches other than myself. All those coaches were absolutely fantastic. Former Google, Apple, Meta, Amazon. I mean, they were great coaches, but I just wanted to simplify the business a little bit. And so the only coach right now is me. And that is the plan for the future, is to not onboard other coaches. And I don't want to go off track because I know we're really far behind and I'm usually not this far behind. So quickly, what I'll state is a lot of these platforms have a lot of coaches who worked at Google or Apple or Amazon, but it doesn't make them a great interview coach, right? And so the only thing that makes them a good interview coach, if you go onto these platforms other than mine and you choose a coach, pick the people who have the high numbers. Even if the platform you're going on is more expensive, work with the person who's done the most. It's just a repetition that's going to make them great coaches. I interviewed thousands of people before becoming an interview coach. And it was only when I became an interview coach and did all the one-on-one work that I actually became a good interview coach. Just my 2 cents. Sorry, little tangent there. You're applying for program manager roles now. Can you recommend some skills that need to be built for this role since you're from a finance background? Yeah, so you came in with the FA, same things. Just use your analytical skills, your strong collaboration skills, and then if you need any certifications or anything that you think will help round you out, that's a good idea. BSA, L5. You're pushing six million-ish, but I want you to negotiate up around that 8 million mark if you can. Hey, Jeff, do you have any experience hiring marketing specialists at Google? You're currently interviewing for a position in Toronto. Toronto, is the four-part interview the same for all roles? It's not the same, but marketing specialists, you're definitely going to have a Googliness and leadership, a GCA, an RRK, and maybe a hiring manager interview or one other interview that may start as the phone interview, but all interviews are not the same for all roles. Okay. So unfortunately, this is tricky because I know you've been waiting, but I push back on all behavioral questions. I cannot answer this question for you because it's a time that it happened to you. So if you are going to answer this question, the one piece of advice, tell me about a time you made a quick decision and no data was available. Introduce what data wasn't available and your timeline within 30 seconds, and then get into the actions you took. So you really want to establish these data points right away. Okay, I hope that helps. But remember, all the behavioral questions, it's something that happened to you. What is a good comp target for a product manager, L3, L4? 4 years of experience. Years of experience has nothing to do with comp, right? So it's level. L3 product, I would be shooting for 250 as your 4-year average, and L4, would that be 350? Well, maybe 250 for an L3 and maybe like 325 as your 4-year average for an L4 for LA product. Yeah, hope that helps. The recruiter said he will share when he has any update, but it's been more than 2 months. So thank you for coming back. So say, I'm looking for a little bit more clarity. And I think at this point you want to say, I appreciate everything you've done. I'm hoping that you can put yourself in my shoes and understand that after 2 months, I don't have any data. I don't know if there's been a hiring freeze. I don't know if you don't have all the interview feedback. I don't know if I did well, but you're looking to interview other candidates. Can you please provide more clarity into the why? I would really appreciate it. This is a dream opportunity for me, and I feel as though, or it seems as though, I'm in limbo. So there's no use. One of the items that we use as a deflection mechanism. This is Chris Voss. I've highlighted this guy numerous times. He used to be an FBI. What is the word? Like the person who would like talk the person down. But if we use terms like it seems like, that deflects it. We're never going to point it and say you. We're just going to try and put them in our shoes and just say, put it all on us. And if it's towards them, we're going to say it seems like. I hope that helps. But this is crazy. Like, how can you possibly be at 2 months and have no data? That is a communication skill gap. And as a communications coach, it is painful for me. Keep us updated, please. L5 program manager in Atlanta. I would anchor in the high ones actually you can anchor into the threes if you want. You won't get there. Program manager L5 in Atlanta is going to be, the 4-year average will be, I hope, 240, 245 maybe. I guess you could anchor into the low threes if you wanted. That first year might be good, but Atlanta's just a tough market in general. Recruiter told me that you have mixed decision on your first HC review. Therefore, we will send you to the second review that's now pending. Yeah, this is weird. So this is a great comment. I've just been seeing more of this where HC doesn't make a decision, so they're sending it to the secondary review. This is new because they used to always have HC and then executive review. They completely removed executive review, which was great because it was totally useless and ridiculous for a company that large. But now it looks like they're getting a second set of eyes when they just can't make a decision. So it just means be patient. It's totally outside of your control. So you just got to sit back and wait. And I know that's hard. Good luck. What does it mean when Google Recruiter asks after interviews about promotional history? Yeah, it's a buying sign. So Kate, it's good news, but you're not quite there yet. But just they're going to ask for some data, promotional stuff. They're going to get into the comp stuff. They're going to get into that kind of stuff. So it's a buying sign. You're in a good place. Growth path for a BSA. It's really unlimited, right? Because as a business systems analyst, that's what a BSA is, if anybody's not familiar. You're doing so much collaborative work, and then you're doing so much analytical work, then you're doing systems analytical work. So it's really open. You could get more into program management. You could maybe end up more in like a customer-facing engineering role. So lots of good opportunities. The people whose base salaries are larger than me by 10%. However, I have more than 6 years of work experience. Yeah, so again, I think that, I don't know if you're getting that data from other people. How long have they been at the organization? Did they get those offers coming right in the door? 6 years of work experience, it's a start, right? But if you're interested in the role, what I always tell people is, yeah, of course I want you to negotiate as hard as you can, but eventually we got to decide whether we see the long-term perspective and opportunity there. And then we got to just get in there, crush it, and show our value. You will get paid if you show your value. Got rejected for one role. Can you still apply for another role? Heard something about having to wait for a year for the same role. If it's a different role or far enough away, reapply. The question would be, have you upped your interview skills enough? Do you feel confident enough to be getting in new interviews right now? Just a question. But yeah, if it's a different role, absolutely you can reapply now. The better path, though, is to work with your recruiter and find out if they think it's viable for you to be applying for other roles, because they might say, you know what, no, I would work a little bit on your interview skills, and I would give you that feedback, because it wouldn't be telling you anything confidential. It would just say, hey, work on your skills, take a little time, so you can always go back to your recruiter and ask. Hi, Jeff. I had your first interview yesterday, RRK, with Google. What is the average time? There is no average time. Just take control. If you haven't heard back in 5 business days, reach out, okay? And always gracious and kind. We're an hour and a half in. We're still going to crush all these questions today. If you haven't smashed that like button, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, consider subscribing to our channel. I do new content every other Tuesday, and then lives every Wednesday at 10 a.m. and a course. I have a course. It's done, but it needs to be fine-tuned. And so I'm going to be spending the next 3 or 4 weeks fine-tuning, getting it out to a beta to some people. The original date was 3/1. If I can stick to that date, I will, but I might push a couple weeks. Hi, during GNL chat, your interviewer switched to his native language as I'm fluent at it, and this was stated in my CV. However, I didn't expect it, and I'm afraid this could impact my answers. Okay, well, again, we can't go backwards, but you might want to just highlight that to the recruiter and say, hey, I just wanted to let you know that we defaulted to X language, and I just wasn't anticipating that, and I just wanted to know if that's common, or again, just communicate it, not in a negative way, but you just maybe want to share with them. Sorry, that's all we can do. Analytical questions that can be asked for a BSA. So analytical questions. Some of the questions are that I really like for a BSA from an analysis standpoint are like, there's a missing component of data, or something goes wrong, or you can't get to a critical resource that needs to share some information with you. So oftentimes it's missing data, some sort of missing piece. Those are kind of some of the analytical questions, or it could be more like systematically, how do you improve a process, create a process? What's your strategy for getting into the systems? What do you do when you don't have the right timeline? Questions like that. I know that's a lot of questions. L5 Tech Ops Manager, Dublin. I mean, you're trying to get, Dublin's been getting a little bit better. I would be anchoring into the mid to high ones, but what I've seen for L5s, total comp is kind of that like 125-ish range for non-tech. That's what I've seen, but they've been getting a little bit better in Dublin. Packet is going to HC. Besides your interview performance, what other factors really impact HC's decision? How much weight do internal references and HM statement of support have? HM statement of support is helpful. If your internal references say you're the best person they've ever worked with and they're on the fence, that's going to help. The hiring manager statement of support helps, and the internal references help, but what's most important is your interview success, interview feedback. You are welcome. Is it normal for a recruiter to ghost you after a team match call? No, it's not. So just continue to follow up, be gracious and kind, be patient. Sometimes in the team match, they have multiple people going through. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't communicate with you. Of course they should. They should respond to you. But just make sure to bring a little bit of that patience into it and follow up with graciousness and kindness. How long can team matching take? How do you increase your chances of getting matched? And is there a chance? Team matching is a total unknown. We had Tina here who came into a bunch of these lives for 6 months. Took her 11 months in the team matching stage. That's uncommon. Increasing your chances are just being and having a very flexible calendar and staying in touch with your recruiter, checking in once every week or two. And then, is there a chance of having no interested teams? Always. Some people end up in that scenario. It ends up usually being, I can't say for sure, maybe a third of people, maybe 20% of people, a fourth of people, I don't know. But there's always a percentage that don't find a team. You will have another chance, but it just means you might need to wait a while. Sorry, that was the second part of your question. If you haven't heard back for a week, follow up. Analytical lead, big box retail. Is that a specific focus area? Is that a specific company? I only really know companies, so if you can give me the exact company, that would be helpful. HC approved for L3, and the team was open to L4 with follow-up interviews and a statement of support. Got the statement and did well in the additional rounds. Good chances for L4. Yeah. If everything went well and you got that additional statement of support and they're supporting the hire, good chances, right? But I can never guarantee what hiring committee is going to do or what's going to happen at any of these other stages. But the fact that you went through it, were willing to go through it, and then you backed it up is awesome. Congrats. Let us know how it goes. What kinds of roles can I apply as a tech consultant at Google? Current position is top tier. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I like about working at these top tier tech consulting firms is that just the client work, the amount of collaboration, the amount of technology that you have to work on. You can go in for maybe something if you're more technical, like a customer engineer, sales engineer, technical account manager. They do have like cloud consulting roles. So it's the gamut. You're going to have tons and tons of opportunity. Wonderful guidance. Awesome. Ideal comp breakup for L5, L6 program manager. Yeah. So again, I know that there's like, the verbiage is a little bit different. And I know it's like in that I'm always kind of, the clients that I've worked with in India, like the millions number, I know that we're trying to get that it's probably somewhere in like the 6 million range, 7 million range. Like I want you to push on that as much as possible. The one piece of advice I give for the India market is negotiate, because it is a bit of a cultural item that a higher percentage of candidates in India are not negotiating. So regardless of the numbers, come in and anchor really high and make sure you negotiate. Remember, the biggest mover is going to be equity in every single country globally. So just make sure you're pushing those numbers. Big box retail, Google. So I don't have the level. Let's assume it's an analytical lead as an L5. 225, 230 as your 4-year average. I'm hoping to get up into maybe 260K that first year, something like that. Remember, you can anchor. If I was going to anchor in Atlanta for any L5 non-tech, I'd be anchoring like high 2s, low 3s as your 4-year average anchor, and then let them bring you down. But just make sure you are negotiating in that market. It's a tricky market because the cost of living is going up pretty quickly, but the salaries are still a little bit lower. Okay, I'm going to go into my sum up, and then as additional questions come in, I will answer any last minute questions, but I just want to go into my sum up. Thank you so much for being here. We had a really good attendance. I think at one point, concurrent viewers, we hit well over 80, which is great. We always are kind of shooting for that up to around 100 range, so really good. Heard from a couple people today who got hired, so that's awesome as well. If you liked what we did today, smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Again, new content every other Tuesday, and then lives every Wednesday at 10 a.m. If I'm ever going to take a week off for live, I don't have any anticipated time off coming up, but I'll let the community know in YouTube. And then that course, I know I want to pitch my own course, and I don't do a lot of selling in these lives because I don't want to do that, but the new course is going to come out. It's going to be excellent, I think. L4, L5, okay, perfect. Thanks for the info. What is the ideal comp for L3, L4 account strategist manager for French team in Dublin? Dublin, L3, L4, it's going to be pretty low. I mean, we're talking under 100K euro in Dublin. So all I'm going to say is push up the base a little bit. If you can push it up 3-5K, and then the USD equity, whatever they come in with, 40, 50, 60K, try and double it. What is your opinion on Eng Prod? Yeah, I mean, again, I want you to do your research. It's really, that's a personal decision. Eng Prod seems great to me, but I don't have enough data on it. But I mean, obviously, I recommend, if you're not working at an elite company and you can get into Google, the brand itself is just so valuable, and your ability to move around after a couple of years as well. Reasonable salary expectation, UX program manager at Google, working remotely from Boston. Okay, so Boston's one of the better, that's my hometown. That's one of the better paying markets. So I really want you to be getting about 250, 260 as your 4-year average. Yeah, I mean, so again, my feedback is going to be the same. I just want you to negotiate strongly and do your best. How do you get into Google as a UX designer with 2 years of experience? Yeah, so I believe you probably know the skills needed as a designer. The design roles are starting to get a little bit of an uptick on salary, but the skills, I would say you probably know the skills better than I do. I obviously have clients for these roles, but just be working on all those design skills and then be thinking really about all your collaboration skills as well. In order to get in, if you don't know anybody, you can apply. But my default recommendation always is networking. Thank you, everybody, so much for being here. I know we always get behind, but we always get to all the questions. Thank you. We'll be back next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific.